you're one of 3 from the Sitting Down with the Sisters podcast.
Sitting Down with the Sisters, yeah. Can
you share what inspired you guys to start the podcast first of all?
Yeah, of course. We've spoken about it quite a few times on our pod, but for those that might know, so 3 of us, we've always had a relationship off camera.
Okay.
And, you know, we'll just catch ourselves in a moment sometimes before we started podcasting where we just discuss things like current affairs, just talk and we just share our opinions. And one day we just played around with the idea of maybe just starting a podcast. And at the time, Ayo had her own YouTube channel. Me and Ayo weren't really on socials or YouTube like that. So she had hers and she had us as guests on there where we just discussed the topic and the engagement was really good. So from then we just thought, you know what, let's see how this goes. We came up with a name and we sat there. The first episode, where was it? I think it was in Ashley's room. And we just put our iPhone somewhere and we just started talking about something.
Oh, wow.
And yeah,
iPhone.
We used the iPhone
I love that,
to record.
Because most people would have been like, oh, we got to go buy a camera, invest before we start.
I'll be honest, we thought of it and we realised that made us procrastinate.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
if we didn't start with the iPhone, Lord knows where we would be. We just thought, you know what, one day, let's go for it. Let's sit down, let's do it. And yeah, God has just helped us just develop a lot more than where we are.
Yeah.
And we can't be more grateful, for real.
See, guys, key is to start with whatever you got. You know what I mean? There's no excuse.
Honestly,
the internet has every resource that you might need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. What's something you wish you would have known before starting the podcast?
Something I wish I would have known.
Yeah, at the beginning that you know now.
Can I say something? This might sound very silly. And it's not as if I didn't have faith in the pod, but I don't know, I think I'm speaking for the girls as well when we say we started this with the intention of just putting ourselves out there and talking. We didn't expect the amount of engagement and support that we've received. Like, there'll be times where I could be scrolling on TikTok or YouTube and just see a random comment on one of our videos saying, I've been watching you guys since the beginning. I don't know who this person is. Like, and I see multiple of it.
Wow.
So I never expected it at all. Like, and I was going to say maybe the hate, but I'll be honest, I expected the hate because obviously that's the other side of things. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it gone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the other side of it. I expected the hate, absolutely, I'm not going to lie.
Hate though?
Yeah, you know, when you put yourself on there, people are going to have things to say naturally. Do you know what I mean? It's what comes with, do you know what I mean? It's what comes with content creation. It's what comes with just social media. So I expected that part of it. And to by God's grace, it's not been as bad. Like, it's been managed properly, very well. But obviously, every now and again, you know, when you say something controversial, someone will take it a bit too far. But other than that, I think it's the support that surprised me the most. Honestly, I was not expecting that. So if I had known, maybe things might have been different, but we just like the journey that it's gone on so far, I'd say.
It's been very natural. And
very natural, very smooth, wholesome. I couldn't have asked for anything better, honestly.
That's amazing.
It's been amazing.
What were some of the biggest challenges you faced when starting the podcast, like during because I know the beginning stages was during the pandemic.
Yeah, so we had actually started the let's say like a few months before the pandemic. Yeah. So the pandemic hit in March and we started, I think, that December. So before starting, maybe challenges would have been having to adapt and just putting it into schedules that, look, that we're taking this seriously now and we're not just gonna just do whatever. It's about being disciplined and being organized. Right. And I remember at the time I was doing my master's. I was halfway through my master's and I had to balance work, you know, study and going into uni because I'd commute all the way to uni that wasn't in London and just doing, that's me personally, that's what I would say my challenge was at the time. And then when the pandemic hit, you know, it was crazy because there was even a point where we just didn't record for a while. We stopped recording altogether because we didn't know how to navigate it. Like, what would we do? We couldn't meet up. Yeah, you know, so we thought, what would we do?
Everyone was trying to figure out the
best way to go about it. And it just clicked naturally because obviously social media took a different turn and people just found ways to work around it. And we thought we don't have an excuse. If we really want to keep pushing, we have to. So we started going on Zoom, started going on FaceTime, like finding different ways to make it work. And yeah, that's basically what I would say. It's been the biggest challenge so far. Probably, the pandemic.
What impact do you think the pandemic has had on the podcasting industry?
On the podcast industry in general.
Yeah, and how's it affected your show as well?
I'll start with mine. I think it's affected us in a positive way, if I'm honest. Obviously, it has its challenges, which I've touched on a little bit earlier, but it just shows our dedication, I think, because that pandemic could have easily just ended things or slowed things down a lot for us. But honestly, it was so nice to see how we bounced back right after the pandemic. I think that was a turning point for me to make me realize that I really enjoy this. You know, when something hits, when you're doing something and some sort of disruption comes in, you could completely just decide then that maybe that's not for me, or you have that, during the pandemic, everyone had that moment where they started to reflect, but we bounced back more than ever. We went to the studio. We started doing, that was when we even got our studio. Like, we started doing different things and just making it better. So that was a turning point, a realization that, yes, we really enjoyed this. We wanted to do it.
Okay.
But in terms of podcast in general, I don't know. I think it's, do you know what? I've realized after the pandemic, more people are podcasting.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? Like, podcasts have become such a big thing since then. So maybe the pandemic made people go into podcasting a lot more, if you know what I mean. Like, do you notice the difference? Because obviously, not to say there weren't podcasts before. Of course there were, but podcasting is an easy. It's something that's convenient to do during a pandemic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? In a way where you can use social media platforms.
I don't know, because you weren't allowed to meet up. It was difficult, so I don't know. I didn't really feel like there were a lot of podcasts during the pandemic, but after it, definitely
it picked up.
Yeah, because there's been a rise in podcast studios as well, and I feel like a podcast is. This is. I'm just gonna explain everyone's logic when they start a podcast. We have good conversations. Our conversations bang. They're lit.
Well, everyone says
Let's record it.
Let's
monetize
Why
it. Get money
not?
on YouTube. So that's
literally. And if you remember during the pandemic, there were those social media platforms that came out of nowhere, like House Party,
right? Yeah,
and was it Clubhouse? So I think those fueled the podcast scene a lot more. Definitely, because people started to engage in those conversations. Audio, some better than others, but do you know what I mean? Like,
no, definitely.
So that built a community where people wanted to listen to other people speak and just touch on topics maybe. But I think that helped in that sense. Maybe.
I think it definitely made podcasting more.
I think it made it more trendy.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the right word. Trendy.
Yeah, it made it more trendy.
Because it's audio. There's no video on those platforms. So
exactly.
You have to if you can keep engagement with just audio. Then literally, we just had each other's voice to listen to and speak to, and that was what people went with, and it just worked, I guess. Yeah, where's Clubhouse now? Do people still use it?
It's still there, apparently. It's still there. Sometimes
that came and went.
It came and went.
Like House Party.
But did you not expect that to happen? I expected it to come and go.
Like the way, I don't know. The amount of users that were on Clubhouse during the pandemic, I would have thought they would have been some sort of. But to be fair, Twitter came out with Spaces as well.
Right, so there's Twitter Spaces.
I got my Twitter account and there's audio. Might as well just use that. Do you know what I mean?
But some people still use Clubhouse. It's still such a big deal.
No, definitely.
Well, in other places, not much around. But I don't know that many people that use it around me. But do you know what I mean? People still use it, but you can't compare.
Yeah, but I think Clubhouse was definitely a good form of networking, especially globally as well.
Oh my God.
I spoke to a lot of Americans. Yeah.
It was such a, do you know what, in different ways, like it was such a good form of networking. Even romantically, I was seeing people like
They were
flying
doing
each other.
literally all types of shows on
you
there,
know,
yeah.
so it brought a big, like, a community. It brought people together somehow, whether it be through business, whether it be through similar interests, friendships,
Yeah.
different ways.
I wish I used it more, to be fair, during that time.
Were you not on it at all?
I was on there for just drama.
Yeah.
I
For
was
the wrong reasons.
Yeah, wrong reasons, yeah. I wish I networked more, but
I wish I networked more, but like, I think it was around the time when my pod just started as well. So I was still
Okay.
trying to navigate. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I think I was a bit shy
all right, yeah.
at the time. You know when you start a new thing that's yours,
Yeah.
and you just don't know how
Did
to.
you ever go up on stage on any of them, or?
Do you know what? There was one time where I did my own, what's it called? I hosted my own
Hosted your own-
discussion.
okay.
And I remember telling the girls about it. Like, I'm going to host a discussion and see if I can link it to our podcast so maybe people can tune in. And it was really good. But after then, I don't know, I just didn't do it anymore. Like, I was
enough.
still in that. This sounds very crazy because obviously we've worked together before. But
Yeah.
when I first started the podcast, I would think, I wasn't sure if I wanted to sort of not be in the spotlight, but I didn't know if I wanted to be out there like that.
Okay.
So I was still battling with myself whether I wanted to be out there doing, not necessarily doing a podcast, but I wanted to put myself out there more or not, if that makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense, but that was what was going on during the pandemic. So maybe that's why I didn't push more. But yeah, it was an interesting time though, definitely.
Fair enough. Okay, wow. Yeah. Because that's interesting. So you started the podcast and knowing that. So that means you lot really didn't have any plans for this to like blow up. You were just doing it as a pastime.
Believe it or
kind of
not,
thing.
we literally just I wanted to just sit down with the girls. Literally, I think it's in the name, sitting down with the. You see everything that we do on the pod,
Yeah.
that's us.
You just
Off
recorded
camera,
it.
but the difference is we've just got a building. It's more controlled because you have to sit
Yeah.
down. And this is us.
So why
when
do you
we're-
not get your own setup then?
Don't
Look
worry.
at me, I've got my own. I'll chill
Don't
at
worry.
home, man.
Don't worry. Think about it. Don't worry.
Cool.
Yeah, it
Say
might be.
nothing,
It
say
might be
nothing.
in the works. Do you know
I
what I
hear it,
mean?
I hear
But we're always trying to develop one way or another. So it might be something to that might be coming up. Who knows? You know.